Lecture 1, Core Concepts. Confused concepts, the root of all issues. Confused concepts are the root cause of communication barriers, logical fallacies, and even major disputes. When people use vague words that lack clear boundaries or standards to describe things, listeners cannot accurately grasp their true meaning, which triggers a cascade of problems. Take concepts like time, space, substantial being, and abstract being, for example. If these concepts and definitions are unclear, any discussion surrounding them will inevitably lead to contradictions. People will argue endlessly without ever hitting the same point. For instance, some say God is outside of time, while others say God is within time. Some say God created time, while others claim God has no time. Still others assert that time does not exist, or that time can be traveled through, dilated, and warped. If time had a definitive concept, these questions would no longer be questions at all. Therefore, vague concepts act like a smog in our thinking and communication. To avoid going completely off track, we need to develop the habit of conceptual clarification, actively questioning specific meanings and replacing vague notions with precise definitions. 2. 7 common yet vaguely defined terms. 1. Being, the existent. 2. Time. 3. Space. 4. Non-being, nothingness. 5. The finite. 6. The infinite. Why are these terms so important? What problems can they solve? First, because people lack clear definitions for these terms, the following errors frequently occur. A. Equating what is invisible or undetectable with non-being. B. Treating non-being as if it were a form of existence, such as claiming God created the universe out of nothing, ex nihilo. C. Spatializing time, e.g. inside time or outside time, or substantializing time, e.g. time dilation, warped time. D. Confounding the infinite with the finite, such as claiming God became man, or that the finite universe does not require a creator. E. Treating abstract beings, such as mathematical or physical laws, axioms, or even relationships, as substantial beings. Examples include Plato's theory of forms, which posits that a perfect form of the circle exists as a substantial reality, or theologians who treat the relationships within the Trinity as independently existing substances. Elevating laws or concepts formulated by the human mind into independently existing substances is the breeding ground for all idealism and theological sophistry. F. Treating non-being as a state or potentiality. Many philosophers and theologians play word games to cover up logical flaws, defining nothingness as a state of chaos, potency, or an undifferentiated state. For example, they might say, God did not create from absolute nothingness, but from potentiality. G. Forcibly stitching the finite and the infinite together, such as Hegelian dialectics, which claims that the finite and the infinite transform into one another. The finite is finite, and the infinite is infinite. Finite humans can use finite language to speak about the infinite, but an insurmountable ontological chasm exists between them. Any theory attempting to transform the finite into the infinite erases the very absoluteness that makes the infinite what it is. 3. My definitions of the core terms. 1. Being, the existent that which can be spoken of. Anything that can be mentioned in human language or become an object of conscious thought belongs to being. Being is divided into two categories, substantial being and abstract being. Whenever we say something exists, we must immediately ask, does it exist as an objective, substantial reality, or as an abstract concept within human consciousness? Substantial being, characterized by occupancy and duration. It includes all objective existences that have dimensions and persist through time, such as humans, trees, and planets. Abstract being, its existence is dependent upon substantial being, especially human consciousness. This includes thoughts, plans, literary stories, flawed logic, and even the concept of non-being. They are not physical entities, but they are real as products of consciousness. O. A finite being, having a beginning in time and limits in space. Humans, trees, and planets are all finite beings. O. Infinite being, having no beginning or end in time, and occupying space boundlessly. Infinite being is strictly unique, dictated by its unique attributes. It is logically impossible to assume even two infinite beings, because the presence of two would mean neither is truly infinite. If two infinites existed, there would have to be a distinction between them. Distinction means A is not B, and B is not A. Since A has boundaries, i.e., A cannot be B, A is limited, and to be limited is to be finite. 2. Time, the duration of being. Duration is an attribute of being. It is an abstract concept that cannot be divided, stretched, or dilated. Time has no inside or outside and cannot be transcended. Whatever is a substantial being must possess duration, and therefore must possess the attribute of time. God created all things, but time was not created by God. God cannot create an entity that lacks substance but possesses duration. 3. Space, the occupancy of being. Occupancy is an attribute of being. It, too, is an abstract concept that cannot be divided, stretched, or bent. It has no inside or outside and cannot be transcended. Whatever is a substantial being must possess occupancy, and therefore must possess the attribute of space. An attribute cannot detach from its substance to deform independently. In physics, the essence of spacetime curvature is actually the curvature of a trajectory. Spatial coordinate systems, such as length, width, and height, are abstract tools set up by humans to describe the position of matter. We can use a curved coordinate system to study celestial motion, but this is merely the bending of a mathematical tool. It must never be equated with the bending of objective space itself. Treating occupancy itself as a stretchable, foldable material substance commits the logical error of elevating an abstract being or attribute into a substantial being. 4. Non-being, nothingness, nothing at all, a synonym for absolute void. In reality, non-being contains no potential, no attributes, and no possibilities. When we use language to discuss non-being, we are employing an abstract concept, an abstract being, whose content is completely empty. But remember, a concept itself cannot generate substance. Therefore, being cannot arise from non-being, and it is impossible for God to create the objective universe out of absolute nothingness. In the upcoming lectures, I will use these foundational concepts to demonstrate the necessary existence of God and to resolve several long-standing debates, puzzles, and paradoxes in theology, science, and philosophy. I hope my videos bring you some fresh insights. Thank you, and see you next time.